Have you ever experienced that sharing everything you did with your family only made things more difficult as you age? Turning being 70 can make you feel as though your life is over. Everyone wants to criticize your financial situation. Here's the reality about health and emotions. Getting older does not imply giving up your privacy. In reality, maintaining certain keeping things to oneself might be among the wisest and healthiest things you've never done due to your concealment, but because you're defending the important things, you have lived enough to understand that not all love is sensible, yet not every query merits, and sometimes your silence isn't an answer. Nobody speaks, and remoteness is a sign of dignity. Regarding this, the majority of elder people's advice emphasizes disclosing all, allowing others assistance, or being open and honest for the sake of your family. What if I told there are specific things that you shouldn't divulge, specific information that should be kept silent for your own protection? Your liberty, your tranquility, and even in this video, your relationships. We're going to go over 7 strong seniors over 70 frequently hold secrets. These are intentionally not about lying. These are about respecting oneself. About being aware of the thin line between control and connection, and figuring out how to preserve the life you continue to live even if your kids or grandchildren have good intentions. So if you're over 70 or almost so and occasionally question if you're permitted to keep this, is for you, talking to yourself. You're not being self-centered. Challenging, you're finally wise. Sufficient to understand that certain things are. Let's start in secret, yours only to carry. You don't have to disclose one health concern. Them all the information about what's happening, not because you're trying to conceal something important with your body, but because regular updates regarding your pains, test findings, or your blood pressure sometimes, readings might cause more harm than excellence. It's simple to forget, but after you attain a specific age, even a basic family emergency may arise from a checkup and you remark something about their eyes. Lightheadedness, and all of a sudden, your daughter wants to put you on your knees, you say. Hurt when it starts to rain, and all of a sudden your grandson is searching for nursing homes online. We're merely conversing, but to them, it's a warning indicator that you may be sliding, but you may actually be alright. But they hear terror, and that panic becomes pressure to make decisions, or I feel sorry for you, but there is a silent power in keeping an eye on your health. Yes, give the crucial information on your terms. Items when you require assistance, but it's acceptable to keep minor issues to yourself as you process them. Examine and make a decision, because this is the psychological reality when elderly people persistently voice health issues. Particularly small ones. It frequently strengthens a role reversal relationship in which you become the one being looked for and your children become the ones who make decisions. Once it occurs, it is difficult to undo. Instead, make room for your family. Observe your calmness, strength, and ability to oversee the things you've taken care of. You've known how to do it all your life. You should take care of yourself. That doesn't vanish simply because it's your birthday. Candles indicate otherwise, so take Margaret for instance. The 78-year-old lives alone and lately began experiencing some small problems with vision at night. Rather than in a panic, she called her children and kept a pattern she saw in her journal, altered her evening illumination, and created a personal. The outcome of her visit with her physician was to be gentle and controllable, but if she stated too soon that her son would. I have delivered pamphlets at her door, and she didn't lie, there was worry in his eyes. She simply postponed the discussion until she possessed clarity, which empowered her. Not the fear. You're entitled to your own speed. You are entitled to state, I'm investigating it, without going into detail on each symptom. And occasionally the best course of action, you can claim that your health is unimportant. Not at all the key to financial decisions. All of the money in your account must be a family conversation after the age of 70. Your funds become more than just numbers. They turn into a representation of your children as an inheritance symbol. Accountability, possibly even entitlement. Consequently, some of your most you will have to make decisions that are peaceful. Make it soft. Perhaps you'd want to purchase a more comfortable chair for your back, or offer a tiny present to a longtime buddy who perhaps helped you get through a difficult period. You're considering making a charitable donation. You have a strong sense of concern about something that your family doesn't appreciate or comprehend. Likewise, whenever money is brought up, the queries start. are you certain that it would be wise to keep that? If you outlive your predicted lifespan, it originates in love, yet it frequently ends in control. There is a certain amount of liberty that the elderly must be protected, and that includes having financial independence. Earned that you've handled budgets and bills. Crises and sacrifices you don't make overnight lose your ability to think simply because you turned 75. Psychology is also involved. In numerous households, an elder displays the accounts when the books are opened. Will it be planned inadvertently in the future? Changes the dynamic of the connection between children. Start considering what's going to happen. Even though they don't say it aloud, to me and every expenditure choice that follows you can give the impression that you're cutting into their future, which poses a risk. Since it converts your funds into their worry and your kindness into their annoyance, allow me to relay what one Leonard, an 82-year-old man, had 3 children. Kids all performing adequately on their own, but after they discovered he was providing regular assistance to a local sanctuary for women without informing anyone, it became a family argument about why, or when asked, you waste your savings, yet Leonard understood the meaning of that sanctuary. Grew up witnessing his mother endure silent suffering from which there is no relief. Giving wasn't only about making money, it was regarding memory restoration and carrying out what he felt was correct, so instead of arguing, he simply grinned, listened, and continued to provide discreetly and privately because his conscience didn't require their consent, nor does yours. Our era is one in which elder adults are frequently treated as though they are approval to live freely, but what you with the choice to spend, gift, or keep remains yours. Decision preserves that liberty because regardless of what they believe, this is still your life, and you are entitled to softly, sensibly, and without. If you're still watching, I apologize. Watching the video and discovering these insights important, kindly provide the second comment below. To inform me of your presence and whether I suggest you if you haven't subscribed yet. Turn on the bell and subscribe so you don't overlook any footage. Your assistance is invaluable. Let us keep producing quality information to educate and motivate you, and then let's go. Forward. The emotive third secret. Boundaries can occasionally be the most compassionate thing. One thing you can do for your family is to maintain specific emotions you have after 70. Emotions often lead to more profound regrets. Surface more frequently, memories evoke despite being silent, loneliness might be stronger. Feel burdened, yet not all feelings require to be open during the family meal table, and not all wounds must be highlighted because occasionally when you try sharing too much, it might backfire and leave you vulnerable. And you receive support instead of answers rather than sympathy. Bewilderment, which makes you feel. Even many elderly people carry tremendous loneliness. Sadness of losing friends and feeling forgotten, observing how the world changes, but when you try to communicate it to your kids, they might utter phrases like, just remain optimistic, or, you worry excessively, and they're attempting to assist, but they're not always sure how. This is the point at which emotional boundaries are important. It's not about keeping things to yourself. About understanding when and what to share. It's about safeguarding your feelings. Energy and selecting secure locations to analyze your feelings. Perhaps you write it down, perhaps you can talk to a friend who genuinely gets you. Just sit peacefully with your own heart. Accepting that no one else can make things better. Emotional self-reliance is as important. Called financial autonomy due to the fact that when you become overly dependent on your family, to comprehend each and every turn of your heart is vulnerable to harm. They caused it to take place even if they didn't intend to. For instance, Margaret, 76, missed her late husband every night in silence, eat a meal, and walk home by yourself, so eventually, I wish I could, she said to her daughter. Listen to his voice once more. Her daughter startled. I said, don't say that. You have so much, and you're still here. Life left. It was intended to inspire, but Margaret never brought it, so shut her down. Up once more, so Margaret composed letters to her hubby each morning instead. He had never read the letters, but she needed to write since the release was important. Over and above the response, you begin to understand the distinction between being listened to, receiving healing, and frequently healing doesn't need to be done by someone else. It only requires your own truth to be held. Gently, in secret, and without passing judgment, so recall that it's acceptable to remain certain. Realities about your emotions, not because although they're ashamed, they're holy, and you merit a place where they don't need to be mended to breathe. Rejected or misinterpreted secret for discussing end-of-life preferences. People feel uneasy in the conclusion, yet peace can be found just by contemplating it. When you're older than 70, consider death comes to you more often than not. Of dread, but you've lived out of reality. Sufficiently to understand that time is not longer and longer. You've witnessed others leave suddenly and swiftly or gradually and painfully, and you've probably wondered, how do I want mine to go? The fact is this. It is liberating to know what you want, but making those wishes public too soon, particularly to your kids, can occasionally do more harm than good. Might have determined that you don't desire harsh treatment. If you become extremely ill, you might prefer a straightforward farewell. Not a large, costly funeral. You might favor tranquility at home over healthcare equipment, yet your kids may not be prepared to learn that they could oppose your wishes. They might say they become alarmed since the topic of discussion is not your independence. It's because of their loss that it is preferable to plan things discreetly and safely before they are even brought up. Put your desires in writing and have them lawfully recorded if necessary. Select a dependable companion or expert to maintain. That data is secure and at the appropriate time is correct. Kindly share it, but only with Take Gerald 81 if you can handle it. He would not want his children to quarrel over his last days, so he got everything ready and improve his quality of life. DNR even his favorite hymn from the old gospel service. He did not, however, overburden his family with. He gently informed them once and allowed when the time came, documents spoke, and when it happened, there was simply no fighting. Tranquilly, since he had made the difficult choices in order to avoid having to. Preserving the privacy of end-of-life preferences isn't secrecy, at least temporarily. Calmness, you're not concealing it from worry that you're shielding other people from your giving out too much emotion. Yourself the honor of creating those decisions in a clear, tidy, and composed manner, and above all, you're putting yourself in free because to the presence of a powerful and understanding that when the moment arrives, your voice will continue to be heard over all information that you have already meticulously planned. If you continue to view this video, and I hope you find these insights useful, please let me know in the fourth comment below. If you haven't already, you're here. Subscribed, but I advise you to do so. And press the bell to ensure you don't miss it. Your assistance with any videos is helpful to us. Keep producing informative, high-quality articles. And motivate you. Now, let's go. Keep these 5 hidden financial barriers. There is something no one can do for you. Prefers to discuss after $70, not the amount you possess, but the amount you should be kept private at this point. Many senior citizens experience pressure to reveal all financial information to some family members even feel bad about not transferring authority or restraining as a precaution. Let me tell you that holding back is wise because it's not selfish. The truth is that life still shocks us. In your 70s, 80s, and even 90s, unexpected medical expenses and home repairs, a buddy in need, or even something lovely like the unexpected want to take a lesson, vacation, or donate to a cause near and dear to your heart, and you are powerless to have that, provided that each dollar is tracked, questioned, or had already committed to. You don't have to lie to someone else or conceal, but you are free to set. Putting aside a little amount of private money, it allows you the freedom to make your own decisions. Freedom to express whether or not think without seeking approval from others. Carol had 3 grown children at the age of 75. Kids who are all courteous and compassionate, yet each time she disclosed her saving circumstances, they began giving her advice. Occasionally, she feels too strongly about what she should or shouldn't dedicate a single day to. Created a small, independent account in secret. It was her heart fund, which she never used. It only for bills or groceries. Items that gave her spirit a sense of vitality. Journey to a lake she hadn't yet seen. Gifts from infancy to a neighbor in need. Attending a writing retreat for a weekend. None of, although it was careless, it was all hers. And that had an impact, but not in the extent of her property, but in the proportions of her smile. Is an example of a boundary. Something is frequently unsaid but profoundly revered after people comprehend it, but you owe no one anything, even if they don't. A justification for creating a tiny protection for your own soul, because occasionally, the most profound acts of kindness offering isn't about giving for others, it's all about preserving just enough to make you feel complete. Steadfast and silently powerful individuals who I want to see you safe, darling, but they additionally need to view you content, and your silent savings could be the solution. You're true between the two secret six. At times of emotional low, there's a sort of stillness that thickens with time and does not, since nothing can be spoken but because certain things also feel too raw, personal, or just not clear enough among the things that are your true low moments, the nights you sat at the brink were dark days. Out of your bed and whispered, "Is this it?" These moments don't always happen beyond 70. Arise from turmoil or trauma. Occasionally they creep in gradually out of loneliness, from unseen suffering, from observing friends fade away one by one, or just from awakening and failing to recognize the face no longer seen in the mirror as your own. However, the majority of elderly individuals don't discuss this, is not for their kids or their why is the husband, not even close friends. Since we are meant to be the powerful ones, the constant presence of the wise ones, all others rely on it, but this is the fact, even the most resilient people require room to break down occasionally. You don't have to disclose each breakdown, you are not obligated to anyone a thorough justification for why some days were more difficult than others, or why a particular date can be the anniversary of a loss when tears still well up to your eyes while nobody else is around. Keeping part of that grief to yourself is sacred, not weak, because when as you age, your pain becomes more complex. People don't always find it in their 30s or 40s are able to understand, stating that it might only invite misunderstanding, sympathy, or worse, contempt. It's not dishonest of you to keep hurting yourself emotionally. Defending your inner world. Consider Henry, who is now 81 years old, and giving to everyone in his vicinity, although during a week in August each year, he becomes remarkably silent. He goes to the coast alone, and nobody in his family is aware of it. Why? He usually shrugs when they ask it off, but they are unaware that he died by suicide with his younger brother on a warm evening when they were both teens. It completely altered his perspective on lives, but in ways that are difficult to express in words, and each year he pays tribute to that type of grief, all by itself, in quiet, is not a burden that he wishes to transfer, it's a portion of his personal power, and he is perfectly entitled to maintain it that way. So if you have days when you're depressed, even if you are unable to define why, or if you can but choose not to, that does not imply that you are broken, it signifies that you are human. If you're still watching, you've survived. Watching this film and discovering these revelations important, kindly leave a comment at number 6 below. To inform me of your presence and whether I suggest you if you haven't subscribed yet. Turn on the bell and subscribe so you don't overlook any footage, your assistance is invaluable. Let us keep producing quality information to educate and motivate you, and then let's go. Send your backup financial information. Secret number 7. Older people know something about the plan that younger people frequently don't comprehend, but money isn't only about numbers, it's about freedom, security, and tranquility, which is why, beyond 70, you should have a backup financial plan. Should keep to oneself in silence. May have a tiny emergency cash hidden away. Hidden side investment that nobody is aware of, or an insurance policy that you don't often mention, and it's actually acceptable. Sensible, since after you reach a certain as you become older, you start to notice changes. Between lending a hand and being taken advantage of, it isn't always deliberate. Adult children occasionally seek assistance because they're overburdened, rather than understanding their request. It gives. Sometimes people assume your shoulders you will be present to pay for a bill, fund, dream, or offer a buffer without inquiring about the potential costs monetarily, emotionally, or mentally, so when you can, you learn to smile and offer assistance. But safeguard what you require for survival and remain self-sufficient, and that's where your covert plan appears. Perhaps it's accounts for savings that have never been discussed over dinner, perhaps it's a rental home you kept in your private name, or perhaps it's as easy as refusing to co-sign a loan. Even though there were simpler ways to say yes rather than no, or anything else. It belongs to you and ought to stay that way. You don't need to defend your desire for protection after spending a lifetime employment, budgeting, and discovering that you have experienced recessions, inflation, familial crises, and unexpected medical expenses that you are able to. Things can change quickly, so when you've arrived at the location where the mailbox brings more bills than cards for birthdays, where the cost of a single hospital visit can increase than your vehicle, you begin to comprehend that a private strategy is not self-centered, it's survival. Consider Barbara, a widow who is 76 years old, she lived modestly in a tiny flat. Kids believe she merely makes ends meet. However, they are unaware that she sold her bigger house years ago with wisdom, put the money into low-risk bonds, and established a trust for herself. Doesn't discuss it or show it off. But she gets a better night's sleep, and the fact that there is peace is what counts. Being aware that you're not reliant on something going wrong, a roof fix, a medical procedure, or even simply wanting to get closer to a friend, you wouldn't need to request authorization or hold out till someone else concurs, so sure, don't make your backup plan public. Just keep it safe, don't explain it. Not be something you discuss aloud. However, it's among the most clever secrets. After 70, you'll never have any last thoughts. You begin to understand something most when they're younger. People tend to ignore. Life doesn't become easier, it simply becomes less noisy, and in that silence, your decision's more important than ever. What you disclose, what you guard, what you keep hidden, these are not only routines, they're survival techniques, such as keeping a few items to being yourself does not imply a lack of trust. Your family, it indicates you have faith in your wisdom that comes from having lived long enough to that setting limits, safeguards connections, and that independence, dignity, and peace are valuable to keep each of these. 7 secrets aren't about concealing, they're about respecting the life you've created, about remaining resilient in your own narrative while others are writing theirs, and about granting yourself the right to live later years according to your terms with clarity, bravery, and silent strength. So which of these 7 did you do? You already keep to yourself in silence, and which one did you feel like I've been waiting for someone to say thank you so much for being here with us today? We would be delighted if you could leave a remark below and share something you discovered today and how you intend to apply it. Your thoughts are significant in your life to us, so please share them without hesitation. Reading your feedback provides us with excellent inspiration and support. If you thought this movie was entertaining and useful, please share, like, and subscribe. Support enables us to keep producing quality stuff to educate and motivate you. Many thanks for viewing, and we anticipate I'll see you in the upcoming video.